I know that some in our audience know the finer points of hockey.
The Chris Johnston Show.
We are your friends.
The biggest stories, bringing you inside the game.
What did you hear?
The Chris Johnston Show. Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook.
What is going on?
Here's Chris with your host, Julian McKenzie.
Part of the game.
We are hours away from the 2022 NHL Entry Draft, and we are doing a podcast in person.
Yo, here's the problem.
What's the problem? What problem could we have? This podcast just started.
It's so awesome to be here with you in
Likewise.
person. Plus Jesse Blake,
Yes.
Adam Wilde, Steve Dangle, all in the same room. But we could not be recording a podcast at a worse time.
A worse time.
It's 11:30 in the morning, the day of the draft. Like, unfortunately, by the time this is getting to you on your podcatchers, wherever you're listening to us, almost everything we have said might be out of date.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think some things might stand.
Of course. But I mean, this is a volatile day. I'm going to be so distracted too. My phone's going to be blown up.
But look, I understand that.
But, maybe that could give us some entertainment too. So
That's exactly it. I'm still waiting for the day. I mean, I know there have been some pieces of news that we've kind of had break while we're doing the show, but I'm waiting for a big trade to blow up as we're recording.
Right. Well, generally, I don't look at my phone when we're doing hits.
Generally.
Here and there, but I really try not to because I want to be giving you my best.
And I appreciate that.
But so then I know we missed I think Brady Tkachuk contract extension came in early in the season. We were doing a show. Anyway, I'm just putting that disclaimer out there, folks. We'll still try to entertain you. I hope I won't say things that are immediately proven false, but we're going to do our best.
Honestly, I don't even look at it that way. What I think would be cool is, and you've done this before, where you kind of have an idea that something happens and then it actually happens. What I think would be cool is that by the time this podcast comes out, if, we go through some players who may be on the move or may not be on the move, end up moving hours after the podcast. I'm like, well, see, that's why you listen to the CJ show. Right.
And I'm living in the Matrix in the future.
Exactly.
So
Great.
even though this is recorded, I'm actually talking live into your ear.
Speaking of players, by the way, just to kind of roll through some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, a lot of different topics. We are going to touch off briefly on the Kiril Kaprizov story that's kind of just developing in Russia. Big last few days for women's hockey. We're going to talk about that as well. We're obviously going to talk about the draft and what the Canadians might or might not be doing. We'll touch off on some odds as well. And again, in Sports Interaction in our segment, you can bet that. And we're going to bring back a segment that I love doing and I love having CJ go through. We did it before the trade deadline, the trading pile. And yeah, there are some guys with some contract situations in there kind of sprinkled in, but for all intents and purposes, we're going to call this the trading pile.
All right, let's get at it.
So we'll have that. But before we get into Sports Interaction though, I know you've been busting your butt working a lot these last how many days. But we have to talk about the fact that the draft, being in Montreal, the first in-person draft since 2019, this is my first time covering an NHL draft. So seeing all these people around and interacting with everybody and meeting all these different colleagues from The Athletic or ESPN is super cool. Right. What's it been like for you, in between working, just meeting up with all of your friends that are in the journalism world?
It's been awesome. It's not just the journalism world. I mean, you walk in the streets. This morning I bumped into Marty St. Louis, actually shook his hand. Seeing people from all over the hockey world, a number of whom would have been normal for me to see every 2 or 3 months somewhere along the way on the travels that you haven't seen for 2 years. It does start to feel normal. I don't know what normal is ever going to be again, but it feels like it used to a little bit. And the draft is really nothing more than a hockey convention in my eyes. It's the one event where you have all the coaches, you have all the executives, you have scouts, you have media people, you have sponsors here. Obviously, the player agents are here. Then you have the prospects and their families. Some even current NHL players come and usually assist at the draft table, maybe help introduce their first round pick for their team. So it's really the biggest single gathering of everyone. And then to be in a beautiful city like this one, the right time of year, we got the nice weather going here. This is pretty special. And this day is really about hope, right? I mean, this is the absolute best time for every team, even teams that just had a crappy year. The Canadians lost a pile of games this year, but they're stepping up first tonight to draft. We'll see if they make some trades. I mean, this is a chance to start to see where they're going next and to have some hope for that. And we could go down the list of teams, I think, that are in the same spot. And that's what makes this event so cool. To have it back in person is cool. I'll say this, though. I don't know if it's going to be like this forever.
What do you mean?
There were a lot of teams that liked the setup when they did it sort of digitally, where they were each in their own home base. And next year, I'm told there will be a draft on location somewhere. They haven't picked the location yet. There's some business meetings next week where I think that'll be determined or sorted out, finalized, what have you. But long term, I do wonder if this is going to be an in-person event, because I think the teams are quite comfortable sort of in their war rooms, we'll call it. They've said that they find being on the floor sometimes can almost be a bit distracting. There's so much going on, whereas when they're in their own room, obviously they can have a private conversation about whatever trades they're considering or what they're looking at from picking prospects. And so we should savor this, because you're going to have a long career in this business. I know, Julian, but I'm not saying every year that we might not be doing this. It might be done, virtually, digitally, whatever you call it, in the years to come.
I wonder about that, because just in the last few days, after I've gone through whatever meetings and meetups with my athletic folk, we'll go out for dinners and go out to bars. You guys
are going out for a lot more than dinners.
Oh, did you not finish?
Dude, I got an Instagram account. I've been seeing the nonsense.
Dinner, bar. We went to karaoke the other night, and at some of these different establishments, you run into people who work for certain organizations.
Of course.
And they enjoy that fact. In fact, I'll say this. After one bar, I was leaving at a particular hour of the night. I noticed an NHL coach make their way in that some people in this room may know very well. And I'm not saying they were doing anything bad. I'm just saying, that's an opportunity for them to just kind of just chill out and just be among the people, because
well, coaches in particular, right? They have very little function at this event.
Yes.
I mean, they're here to be part of the meetings, but they're not dictating what kids their teams are picking. They're really there to meet the prospect, to shake the hand, and maybe have some internal meetings. But this is not a high stress event for a coach. And in fact, I know the coaches did a bunch of other stuff this week. There's a clinic going on. They had a golf tournament, this and that. But what I mean is, it's more of a social outing. So if you saw a coach or two, let's not name any names. Let's just let people live. Yeah. We're not going to dox anyone on this pod.
I'm not doxing the man. I didn't say I seen him, lift some girl on a bar or whatever. No, he was doing his thing.
Well,
he was chilling.
Look, it's a long season in this sport.
Oh, it is.
And this is truly a time, especially once you get the other side of free agency, where a lot of people are hanging up the gone fishing signs around hockey. You might have noticed that August does not include much of anything in hockey. I mean, you have salary arbitration cases are heard, in early August. But other than that, the odd signing, not really any trades. The whole going up to a lake and turning off the phone thing is there's still some of that culture in the sport. I know it's really demanding jobs that these people have, but everyone's got to unwind a little bit. I think we're even going to unwind to come back at you with even more pop in season 2. So we're actually getting towards the end of our first season here, bud.
I was about to say, the way you were describing August, I was like, this is your way of letting everybody know that don't expect us in August.
Well, I mean, we don't have a firm plan yet. As always, we just plan the pod when we're on the pod.
That's the best.
We just talk out loud about things we might do. We haven't checked with anyone. Somewhere Adam Wilde is cringing, the evil boss is you can't do that. But we just say it on the pod and hope it manifests in reality.
Exactly.
So, I want to do a holiday sort of pod, though.
I'm down for that.
I don't know how the logistics of that will work, but wherever you are, wherever I am, we'll figure out a time and just check in. Maybe we'll weigh in on any hockey stories that have happened. Maybe we'll just talk about what we've been up to. That would be fun.
I would really love that idea, and I think a lot of people would love that idea as well, just because they like knowing what you're up to.
We could just do a giant ass CJ, see what goofy questions we get. I don't know.
I love that. You know what's funny? I thought for the longest while, if we do an episode like that, let's just get nothing but goofy questions. Yeah. Just all the ridiculous, what do you like on pizza and stuff like that.
So producer Nick is going to hate me for suggesting this, but we should get people to record audio of their questions.
Okay.
And then we could play the questions. Maybe logistically that's going to be a cluster. Anyway, never mind.
Why not
cool,
video?
Actually,
why not video?
Video or audio, have our listeners, viewers, whatever, be asking the questions and us answer them.
Exactly. So you have people record video and then splice it in between.
I just ruined 2 days of his summer. Splice all that together. So maybe we'll workship that one, but yeah.
We can do that. One other thing before we get to sports interaction. Friday this week, fan appreciation night at La Cage, or Casual Sport if you live in Montreal, or as some people who don't know better would refer to as La Cage. Tkachuk. I'm not going to reveal who actually told me it was Tkachuk, but it was a very hilarious conversation.
Was it an NHL coach at 2 a.m. in a bar in Montreal?
No, it was not an NHL coach at 2 a.m. in a bar. It was some member of the SDPN who was trying to tell us where this was going down. And they were trying to be like, yeah, well, this Tkachuk? I was like, what the hell is Tkachuk? And then I realized, like, you mean casual sport. But anyway, we're going to be there
Look,
Friday.
this is not a bilingual pod, as we learned
What do you
last
mean
week.
it's not a bilingual pod?
Well, you're bilingual.
I'm bilingual. It could be a bilingual pod.
Oh, man. I know as much Finnish as I know French, which is not good for either language.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know Finnish. So I think that's still pretty impressive.
Kitos.
I imagine that means thank you?
It does.
Okay. All right. I guessed.
And kipis means cheers.
Kipis.
Yeah.
So Kitos and Kipis.
So if you're having a porvo,
A
you
beer?
say kipis.
Oh, okay. Look at that, man. Look, we getting you in English. We getting you in French, Finnish. I've been learning German on Duolingo, so no worries. I got you on German at some point. But yeah, Fan Appreciation Night on Friday, I believe it's 6 o'clock at La Cage, at the Casual Sport, right next to the Bell Center.
I don't want to spoil the surprise.
Oh.
But if you're at the Casual Sport at 6 o'clock on Friday night, you're going to see at least one sports writer drinking beer.
One?
I said at least one. I can't speak for everybody else, but this has been a long, grueling week. I haven't been burning the midnight oil like all you youngs in the media. I haven't been going to karaoke. And
shout out to you calling out the young people, them.
I wake up early because I haven't been out late, and I'm looking through Instagram, and I actually shed a tear because I remember that phase of my career where I didn't miss a last call ever, because there's so much FOMO in a sense, or you're just so excited to be with everyone. It's exciting, and you're not worried about what the next day is going to be and all that. And so I love it. I'm not calling it out in a negative way. I'm wistful for that time in my life, but I'm also thankful to wake up with clarity of thought, because you can't have both.
Seriously. As someone who just got over food poisoning earlier this week, pushing through all that while, trying to be social with everybody, I completely understand having that sense of clarity, waking up at a reasonable hour after having a decent night's sleep.
Not all heroes wear capes here, bud. You're staying out late after food poisoning?
Well, hey, I mean, look, man, I'm just trying, okay? I'm trying to be social with everybody. Let's get to Sports Interaction. David Bastel's not going to be with us, but if you are playing Sports Interaction, as always, 19 and over, we ask that you play responsibly. There will be a link to responsible gaming strategies in the description of this show. Let's get to You Can Bet That. Welcome to You Can Bet That. David Bastel not here, so it's just myself and Big Money Siege. Remember to hit up sportsinteraction.com/SDPN for all of your gaming needs. On the Sports Interaction website right now, they still have all the odds for the top three picks potentially in this year's NHL entry draft. Shane Wright, the favorite at 1.36 to be the first overall pick. Second overall, Yuri Slafkovsky leading the way at 1.5, and then Shane Wright at 3.24, and David Jiricek at 6.03 to be the potential second overall pick. And then for third overall pick, Logan Cooley at 1.44, Simon Nemec at 4.88, and Shane Wright 7.62. There's a chance. There's a universe where Shane Wright falls all the way to third overall in this year's NHL entry draft, according to Sports Interaction. The odds, again, for Shane Wright.
Dude, we've seen it happen before.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Seth Jones went to 4 that one year, and it was all that year there was thought he could even go 1. So this is one of these strange years. I honestly, we're recording 7 hours before the pick, and I don't know who's going. So,
I mean, and we can get into it outside of You Can Bet That. But actually, you know what? I'll ask about the intrigue outside of You Can Bet That. But I'll just say, if you're looking to get into these odds, sportsinteraction.com/SDPN is the place to be for all the best odds before game, in game, and the best props. Again, sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. We will get to that again on Monday with David Bastel when he comes back. I imagine he's enjoying himself for the rest of this week, and I'm sure he'll probably get into summer mode as well.
Yeah, he should be here, though.
He should be here, though. We miss you.
Now, our next partner is a pretty cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you'll all agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution that actually tastes good. You'll really enjoy actually getting your daily vitamins in through them. What is this stuff actually? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and even aging. All of the things. Like that's pretty cool. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, daily free, or gluten free, and contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, while still tasting good. It will cost you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. So you don't have to go out to the store, go to Starbucks all the time. Invest in some Athletic Greens. It has over 7,000 5-star reviews, recommended by professional athletes and trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Johnston. athleticgreens.com/Johnston to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
So before we get to NHL draft stuff and free agency and trade stuff, there's a weird developing story that came out on Wednesday with regards to one Kiril Kaprizov. So earlier this week, we talked about Ivan Fedotov and his situation in Russia, where it looked as if he was trying to evade military service. And now there's a story that came out from Sport Express that said that Kaprizov is linked to fraudulent military IDs being sold to players. And one of them reportedly is attributed to Ivan Fedotov. And now Kaprizov is now being wanted in Russia. So again, Sport Express put that out there. And my colleague at The Athletic, Michael Russo, kind of added to that story saying that Kaprizov is still in Russia. A quote from that story from Bill Guerin, the GM of the Minnesota Wild: "We're trying to find out as much as we can, but we're not too much worried about it. I've talked to Kaprizov's agent, Paul Theophanos. We're not going to push the panic button or anything like that. We're just trying to gather information right now and find out if this is even credible." I mean, just like everyone else, we are still trying to gather information on this as well. This is just very, very scary situation right now.
It is. I think the best way to look at it, though, it's uncertain. Like, I think sometimes when you have a void of information and when you have a situation unfolding a long way away from where we sit today and we're getting some of these reports and you see tweets, like, it's easy to jump to really harsh, awful conclusions. And, you know, from the bit I've been able to report around this story, nobody quite knows how this is going to play out. Obviously, it's an unstable part of the world. There's a war going on. There's a number of NHL players that have returned home to Russia. But I don't know that we need to assume, or I think it would be dangerous to draw too many conclusions about what kind of danger Kaprizov might be in or that he might not be able to get out of the country. You know, there seems to be a level of confidence there he's going to be able to get back to North America. But we have to put a huge but on all this, is that, first of all, it's unfolding in real time. And no one can say for sure. And that's why some teams, some agents didn't want the Russian players to return home this summer, or at least urge them. I mean, they have players have a right in the offseason contractually to do whatever they want. They can be wherever they are. But, you know, I think that because of some of the uncertainty in that region, we're going to see at the draft, there's definitely going to be fewer Russians drafted than would have happened in a normal year. We have to see how this goes. So I just struggle to think that Kaprizov, who certainly one of the biggest current Russian stars in the NHL, is going to have problems. Remember, he played a long time in the KHL too. Like, he didn't bolt the minute he was drafted. There was some dicey times there where the Wild might wonder if he was ever going to come. because he signed an extension after the point he'd already been drafted and stayed over there a long time. I just don't want to. I don't want to jump to too many crazy conclusions. Is kind of my point. I do think that there seems to be confidence from key people around that situation that he'll be okay. But that's the best we can hope for. I know we talked about Ivan Fedotov the last time. I mean, he's at a remote military base now, and it was his intention to come and likely play in the American Hockey League with Philadelphia's system, but come and join an NHL team or NHL organization, and he's not being allowed to do that. And so, I just can't imagine it would escalate to the point where Kaprizov isn't able to. But man, it's just a crazy time in the world. What else can we say, right? It's hard to know what a foreign government is going to do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a scary time with regards to these players and so many other ones, or not so many other ones, but it's not the first time we're hearing any athlete be in a weird situation with the Russian government. Obviously, thinking of WNBA star Brittany Griner. But yeah, we're gonna think of but we're going to keep tabs on this story. Among some of the other ones we want to get to today, you did mention today's a bit of a weird one. You're checking your phone, I'm checking my laptop, and I don't want to start jumping around on different topics here.
Let's jump, bud.
But
my brain's jumpy, so just take me wherever you want to go.
So Elliot Friedman, funny enough, as we were starting off the segment on Kiril Kaprizov, mentioning two tidbits, which I'm sure you're probably up on as well, of the possibility of Matt Murray going to the Buffalo Sabres, and Matthew Tkachuk, who I wanted to mention in our trading pile segment later. Calgary's sole focus seems to be to try to sign him. And I forget who else has reported this as well, but those are two. We're already seeing names kind of fly around, and the possibility of those guys starting to move around. Like it's a bit of an interesting setup with those guys. But I don't know what intel you might have on those two situations.
Well, let's start in Calgary. I think the issue here is Matthew Tkachuk wants to see what happens to his good friend and line mate, Johnny Gaudreau, just as other Flames players do. I've actually heard of other Flames players not connected to those two getting a little impatient with how this is playing out. And look, Johnny Gaudreau has earned the right to take this to free agency. He's earned the right to consider his options. The one thing I think we can lose sight of is players don't have a lot of rights in this league. You got to play 7 years in the league or 7 years as a pro before you can choose what team you play for. So there's some exceptions, of course, college free agents, this and that. But I mean, generally speaking, any player drafted tonight and here in Montreal, he's going to have 7 or 8 or 9 years before he can even choose where he plays. So when you get to that situation, when you're the kind of star Johnny Gaudreau is, I think he's earned the right to take some time. But the fact is, he's been offered an 8-year deal by the Flames, and he's been sitting on this offer for a couple weeks now. And I think so internally, the Flames, that creates problems for them. They'd like clarity. I think even, of course, they're hoping he wants to come back and be a member of their team the rest of his career. But if he is of a mind to not do that, they want to know that too. And so this affects Matthew Tkachuk, because if Matthew Tkachuk himself is going to sign a long-term deal, I think he wants to know how competitive the team's going to be, what direction it's going. And so there's a few moving pieces. I think they're tied together to a certain degree. I'm not saying, let's not jump to the conclusion that if Gaudreau leaves, Tkachuk's gone. I don't think it's that simple. Maybe if Gaudreau ends up not resigning Calgary, maybe they bring someone else in that changes how things look there. So I think teams maybe would like to get in on Matthew Tkachuk. I don't think the Flames at this point in time they're not listening to offers. I mean, they're focused entirely, as Elliot reported, on trying to get him signed too. But I don't think that happens before they know what happens with Gaudreau. I think Gaudreau is the first and biggest domino to fall here, and then everything else flows out of that in Calgary.
Okay, and what about with Matt Murray in Buffalo?
So Matt Murray's owed, I think, $15 million in actual cash on the next 2 years of his contract. Obviously, he's been, unfortunately, really injured since coming to Ottawa. He had injuries at the end of his time in Pittsburgh, too. It's a deal the Senators would like to get out from under. I don't know that they can buy him out. I mean, they have the ability to, but, they bought out Colin White already. I just don't know if they have the stomach to buy him out. And so they've been open and looking for places to deal him. But, he also has no trade protection. And so, the Sabres made a lot of sense. Because the Sabres have a need in their crease. They have some cap room. And obviously, if they're making that kind of deal, they're getting a sweetener. They're not just getting Matt Murray. They're getting something else. Plus to take on that cap hit and that financial commitment. So, this deal is stalled, but I still think that there's a chance Ottawa moves Matt Murray. I know there's a lot of skepticism about that. But he's reasonably young. He has had success. And if the right situation arises, I could see him playing somewhere next year. And if not, Ottawa's going to return with 3 goaltenders, and they're going to run 3 goalies to start the season. So this isn't. It's not a binary moment. There's a world where he's playing somewhere else, and there's equally a world where they're carrying 3 goaltenders. The thing is with Ottawa, they don't have a cap issue. So they don't need to move him. I just think they'd like to. It would free them up to do some other things financially. I think Ottawa is a real team to watch here in free agency. Like I think that they're going to take a swing or two, even on the trade front. They have the 7th overall pick tonight. It would not surprise me in the least to see them trade that pick prior to making it. And so I think that they're going to be pretty aggressive in trying to get a couple forwards in, especially to help out their younger players and to push to be in the playoff picture next year, to be in contention for that. And so keep a big eye on the Sens. They'll keep trying on Murray, but even if that doesn't manifest itself, we're going to see them signing some free agents. I'm confident of that.
All right, let's keep it going with the free agent trade talk. Let's actually move up trading pile, and we can get to some of the other stuff after. So I'm just going to throw out some names. You tell me what you know about each of the names. And at the same time, we are going to just keep an eye out here up on Twitter. And look, I get it. We are not doing this live. This is going to come at you in a couple of hours. It's still it's like a radio instinct. Like if we were doing this live, like we would still do this. And it's still cool to kind of like, you feel the thrill of like a trade breaking on like a pod or something, even if it's not live. So yeah, I'm not going to take it.
I'm buzzing right now, man.
I'm buzzing right now too.
I feel like anything can happen today.
Dude, man, it could happen. Who knows? In the next how many minutes we are recording this show.
I went on my run today up Mount Royal, and literally half the NHL appeared to be doing its morning workout there too. And I bumped into a guy, won't identify him, but works for a team. And he's like, there's so many names in play right now. He's like, it's kind of crazy. And he was pointing out too that he's like, this first round is not what a normal first round would be. Like there's not a lot of consensus. So obviously some teams might be really high on certain guys and others not as much. And so he's like, I think most teams are willing to trade their pick or do something there. There's all these big names flying around in the trade chatter. And so that's why I feel like it's like I'm like inside the pop bottle and you're shaking it and I'm like ready to explode because it just feels like we're going to get some action.
Is there a particular like big domino that kind of has to fall for all of these things to happen? Do you see it that way?
I don't know that there's a big domino. Alex DeBrincat to me is the most intriguing domino because what Chicago has told teams is they want to trade him or they're open to trading him, but they need a first round pick tonight as part of the package. And it doesn't end there. You're looking at probably a 3 asset deal to get Alex DeBrincat, but that puts a deadline in place, right? Basically somewhere between 7 and 9:30 p.m. Eastern, that deal either has to happen or it's likely not happening or whatever. Maybe they try again at the trade deadline, but it gets put on pause. And so there's definitely been interest in that player, as there should be. 2-time 40-goal scorer, young. I mean, I've even had other teams say, like, why are they trading him?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, look, I think clearly they're hitting reset on their group. And what we can conclude by them wanting a first-round pick tonight is they want to start. They basically are starting to rebuild right now, even though I know they've kind of been lost at sea for a little while now as an organization. But if you're getting rid of someone at that age rather than trying to re-sign them, the other factor here is, there's 2 sides to the puzzle. Maybe Alex DeBrincat isn't of a mind that he wants to sign a long-term extension if there's going to be a rebuild. So, I think that both things have to be considered. But yeah, so I think Chicago is the big domino. I've also heard Kirby Dach's name out there, which again, kind of interesting because not that long ago, he was a top pick himself. And so they're definitely having active conversations on Dach and DeBrincat. One or both could be dealt today. And so I think that is one of the big dominoes. Now, the other one is that it's funny. At the trade deadline, teams give away picks like candy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like future me's problem. But when you get to today, it's kind of cool to have a pick. And so the other situations we might see is there's these other teams in the first round, like in Ottawa, that can use the fact that whoever they're trading with kind of likes the idea, hey, maybe we want to draft at 7. Maybe there's a kid we like that we think these teams missed ahead of us. And so those are the other dominoes. It's just that the day of trades with the first round pick are pretty cool because it's immediate gratification, right? We're seeing trades out with like 2024 picks. Like that seems like I'm miles away. Like maybe we'll be doing the virtual draft by 2024. We won't nobody will even be hungover at this point because we'll all just be at home.
On our couches watching.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Chicago's a team to watch. I think Ottawa is an interesting team heading into today, but there's a bunch of others, right? Jacob Chikrin's name's out there. We know Arizona definitely had pretty extensive talks on him before the deadline, elected to keep him. But you could see him move. Who else? We got the list.
We have a whole list.
I don't know if you want me to start naming names or what.
Well, you mentioned picks, and one other pick that I'm thinking of that could very well be in play, and it feels as if like the general manager has been itching to just do something, either with this pick or just something. Period. What about the second overall pick with the New Jersey Devils?
They're active.
Oh, I bet they are.
I mean, look, New Jersey's they've been lost at sea too as an organization, right? And so I think they like Uri Slavkovsky, who may or may not fall to them at number 2. But they're definitely also open to trading the pick. Like, I think that they haven't approached it like it has to go this way, right? It's funny, like teams do different ways. Like, I'm saying Chicago's coming into this potential DeBrincat deal and saying, we need this. I think New Jersey's like, let's put all the cards on the table and see what makes the most sense for us when it comes time to go. And so how cool would it be? You get the building buzzing. Montreal makes the first overall selection. The Montreal Canadiens are proud to announce. And then you get that moment. You
trying to be the next commissioner or what?
You get that moment. And then number 2, it's like, we have a trade to announce.
Duh.
Boom. Like, I remember I was in New Jersey, whatever draft that was, a long time ago, and the Devils traded for Corey Schneider. And it was in the first 10 picks or whatever.
I think that's the one where Garrett Bettman was like, I think you're going to like this.
And it was awesome. Like, it actually, I can't describe the draft as buzzy too often because, it's made for TV more than live audience. But tonight will be a live audience night because you have the hometown crowd and the first overall pick, and we're going to have some trades, bud. Man. I know every year we say this, and then usually it disappoints. We're going to have some trades.
Yo, as someone covering the NHL draft for the very first time and will be in the building and will be part of the subtle plug here, running the Athletics live blog during
nothing subtle about that.
Zing, called out. I am all for having some trades. That might even be the title of this episode. One name that
I'm just monitoring the waiver wire.
Of course.
Pestering half the NHL to see what's sent to me.
You might as well tell us now because it is at 12 at the time that we are recording right now.
Yeah.
You might as well tell us who is on the waiver wire while you might as well be doing
Let's see if anyone answers my text. This is a test of my relationships.
Oh, okay. This is it. Guys, this is like a live, I know CJ is always picking up the phone, but we could get an instant, result out of this text here.
I know, but let's not build it up too much.
Okay, fine.
To be fair,
that is true. It is waiver wire news.
Well, it also might just be an empty waiver wire that I'll go, oh.
Yeah, that's true. It might just be an empty day.
Someone says, I got you.
Oh.
Well, it comes at 12:01 and it's actually 12.
Well, it's 12:01 now.
Okay, well, let's see what this says.
Okay.
This is terrible radio. This is so bad. Literally, and it's going to be no waiver activity or whatever.
Nothing.
But it'll be cool if it's something.
Yeah, let's see what it is.
This is the fun of waivers every day.
Yeah.
Because most days it's so disappointing, but then every once in a while there's a big surprise or something on there whoa.
Someone got bought out. Whoa.
Or someone got claimed. Oh, here we go.
Okay. What do we get? What is it?
No one on waiver.
Oh, what is that? Come on. We were waiting for that. And booze from the Peanut Gallery as well here at Casa SDP.
This is the worst episode ever.
No, it's no.
I'm basically in my phone.
This is not the worst episode ever.
We're telling everyone repeatedly, this is going to be outdated by the time you listen.
No, this is not the worst episode ever. The fact that we're in person automatically makes this in the top tier of episodes.
Okay.
There are definitely, no. I don't even think we even have big dubs like that. We good. We got big dubs W's we winning, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, let me just go through some more names here. I want to go through JT Miller. My colleagues at The Athletic in Vancouver, notably Thomas Drance and Harman Dayal, have been writing a lot about JT Miller and his future with the organization. What can you tell us about JT Miller and the Vancouver Canucks?
It's a tough one. They have engaged in some discussions on a potential extension. But the feeling around those talks right now is that nothing will be done this week. And so puts Vancouver in a bit of a spot, right? Because this is the week to make a trade. This and the trade deadline, this is when the money happens. Mm-hmm. Even by, as I said, by August, if Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin are looking to make that trade, it's just like half the league has either spent their cap space or what have you. So, I think it's definitely possible, but it's one of these ones that's hard to handicap because I think that they're talking extension. And so there's that world, but this is a pretty good player. I think the hard part too is what's JT Miller make? $5.25 million?
I'll just double check
give or take. So everybody likes that next year because of how productive he is. Just had a 100-point season, delivering great value.
5.25. Delivering
great value on that contract. But everyone's wondering, like the Canucks, what is the next? Can we get him to an extension and all that sort of thing? So, I'm not really expecting him to be traded, but I think it's certainly possible because there's been so much discussion. And look, teams were talking to the Canucks about him before the trade deadline too. And so it feels like at some point the deal's probably dropping, but I don't have any information to suggest it's coming today.
Okay. What about Vladimir Tarasenko? What about his name? Still with the St. Louis Blues.
Sorry, just got to...
That was like a weird, like, oh, wait a minute. Did you know something about Vlad? No, I get you.
Not all texts are created equal.
That is very true.
But it's some interesting intro in that text, but I got to think about how I can disseminate it on the pod. Anyway. Sorry, what did you ask about?
I was asking about Vladimir Tarasenko, but after Tarasenko, if you want to get into that text, we could find a way to segue to that.
This is the worst day ever to do a pod, I'm telling you. I'm in 1,000 directions.
That's
right now.
okay.
I have no focus.
You're like Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, just trying to like get all these universes together.
I wasn't even doing karaoke with John Liu last night.
Oh, dude, John Liu, I don't think people realize this. Love hearing him do karaoke. Amazing.
I've heard that he's worth the price of admission.
Absolutely. 100%. And he sings in English and in French.
Wow.
He's incredible.
He should do stick taps in French for me next time.
Don't get out of that.
So Vladimir Tarasenko, I think he's finally being moved.
Okay.
Last year it was pretty well known that there was at least some interest in him. He actually gets exposed to Seattle. If we want to look at some of the, it's so easy to second guess a year later sitting in his apartment with a nice coffee. But like the Kraken made a couple swings and misses. I think Vince Dunn worked out well for them, but not taking Vladimir Tarasenko for free might have been one of their bigger errors because if nothing else, he was going to be a great trade chip for them. And now he's a trade chip for the Blues. So I think there's a few teams out there looking for scoring. Look at a team like Carolina, maybe Philadelphia if they strike out elsewhere. Someone suggested Florida to me. I don't know how that works because they got some cap issues. They're now facing the possibility Drew walks away, Mason Marchment as well. There's a few other teams there, but I do think this is finally it. It just seems like a kind of a marriage that's run its course. He's been a long time Blue, of course, helped them win their Stanley Cup in 2019, but he's 1 year out from UFA, and so I think the Blues are looking to see what they can do. But they're not giving away either. They're a team that wants to be competitive next year, and so we're talking about a player for player type of trade most likely versus the kind of trade Chicago's trying to make with Alex DeBrincat.
Just one other thing with Florida as a possibility, with the fact that Anthony Duclair is not going to play next year. If his salary goes in LTIR, if they let a guy like Giroux go, maybe that makes sense.
Maybe. And look, there's other things they can do moving money around. And we've actually seen Bill Zito's been pretty aggressive. Someone said a long shot for, and this is not sourced. This is more someone who works in the league who I trust, but said, maybe Pittsburgh looks at him if they're in a world where they're not signing Evgeny Malkin. That, obviously you're talking about a winger in Tarasenko, but maybe you get 1 year of him and Crosby together might be pretty enticing. Still have Jake Gensel there, scores a lot of goals. They re-signed Brian Rust. Maybe that's the way they go. But it feels like this is finally reaching its climax, and certainly the Blues are scouring the market for that.
You mentioned Evgeny Malkin. I was talking with a reporter yesterday who is pretty in tune with the Pittsburgh market, and they didn't seem all that confident that Evgeny Malkin was coming back. They even mentioned a Western Conference team who might be interested in him.
Well, there's lots of interest in him.
Obviously, yes.
If he hits the market. I mean, I know he's older, and I know he had a knee surgery. He also had a point per game last year at 36. So he's gonna. I'm of the same mind. It appears that this is like I don't think he necessarily wants to leave, but the Penguins haven't got to the place where he feels that contract should be, and they're going to sign Chris Letang. That's all but done. But at this stage, as we recorded this at a very fluid time, it does appear that Malkin's headed to free agency. And I think that'll be an interesting choice where he ends up. There's only so many teams, really. Every team would want him in a perfect world, but unfortunately this cap world isn't always perfect. We don't have true, a lot of teams are out of the running just by their cap position. But he's always been linked to Dallas. I don't know if Dallas wants another older player, but you wonder about them. I'm not going to throw Malkin teams around. I don't need to.
Well, you already just said one team.
Yeah, but I'm going to stop there because I could name a few others, but it's not. I don't want to speculate too much. I mean, part of this is speculation. Part of this is fun discussion about the league, but I don't want to be too irresponsible.
Look at you being responsible.
I was not out with the Youngs last night.
Yeah. Whatever. What about Marc-Andre Fleury and his situation?
Well, he's not going to Minnesota on a 1-year deal, which was reported on Thursday. I think the first sort of canary in that coal mine is that I think he's going to look for a multi-year deal.
Wow.
Come
this
on.
guy's like 30, 36?
Don't age shame him.
No, I'm not age shaming him. He's 37.
Yeah.
I'm not age shaming him. It's just, this is a guy who we were wondering last year if he was going to retire.
My friend, Mike Smith, just signed a 2-year deal at 39 or 40.
But when were we talking about him retiring?
No, but
I'm not trying to age shame. If Marc-Andre Fleury feels if he feels he can play, absolutely he should play. My whole excitement about it is the fact that this was a guy we were discussing last offseason, wondering what his situation would be if his career would be done. So the fact that we're at a point now where he might be done in Minnesota, or if he wants to stay in Minnesota, he might have to sign a multi-year deal. That I think is really interesting.
You come here for information. Here's your information.
Well, of course.
When he signs on the dotted line, very, 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 very good chance it's a 2-year deal.
Okay.
And so that was the first thing. And look, there's only the goalie market is hilarious because we literally go in circles. We call it the carousel because we go in circles. There's 5 teams looking for a goaltender that can play, say, 50 games. There's only 4 goalies right now that can do that. And Marc-Andre Fleury, in my opinion, is one of them. And so Toronto, Washington, be kind of cool if he went to Washington.
Oh, yeah.
For those in the Penguins-Capitals rivalry, just put a little... Zzz.
Imagine if Malkin went there.
Yeah, imagine they both went there.
Could you imagine that? Do you imagine how people would lose their minds in Pittsburgh?
It'd be fun.
It would be ridiculous.
I'm always cheering for chaos,
even.
right? Ridic. So, and but I think he could end up in Toronto too. I mean, look, Jack Campbell's hitting the market. It seems like Jack Campbell's probably going to Edmonton. If we're trying to pin down...
Okay.
That's not done, obviously.
No,
but
I've heard that.
It feels like they have probably the most to offer him in terms of money, security, a position, because, it sounds at this point like Mike Smith may not be able to play next year because of the injuries he's had. Mikko Koskinen's already signed in Switzerland. So they're looking, they got a big hole to fill. And so that looks like one thing we can handicap. And so then with the Leafs, you're looking at maybe Kemper, maybe Husso, maybe they're making a trade. I mean, it's going to be interesting. So Marc-Andre Fleury hasn't re-signed in Minnesota. I think there's still a possibility, but this is a weird time for him. He's 37. He's never been a UFA.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the way I've heard it is that this has actually been kind of challenging for him. He's just not used to this because he's never been through it before. He's changed teams, obviously, through an expansion draft and a trade. A couple trades, but this is the first time he's getting to pick. And so I would think he's going to get to July 13th and at least take a look formally at what's out there with offers and teams and all that.
Okay, let's get to a few more names before we get to stick taps. How about Jesse Puljujärvi in Edmonton?
Ooh. I mean, they're ready to trade him.
Yeah.
They need a player, though. And so in some ways, that's a harder trade because they want someone who can play on their third line in return for them. So I think it's much easier if they're like, oh, we'll take a 2nd-round pick. I do think a team would probably do that today. But sometimes lining up players, salary expectations, all that stuff, we're getting into more complicated. You're limiting the field because not everybody can meet those requirements. But I think there's a good chance that marriage is finally over too. It sort of reminds me of Tarasenko. Puljujärvi is much younger, but remember he's had some clash with the organization. I think a lot of it is role more than contract, but he needs a new contract too. But he wants to be a top 6 guy, and I'm not sure that they see him that way. And so this might be near the end of the road for him. But that trade doesn't have to happen, I'll say, on Thursday here as we're recording, because it's a player for player swap more likely than a futures kind of deal.
I think I mentioned him a couple of days ago, but I'll throw him out again. Josh Anderson.
Always with the Montreal questions.
Well, just because there's a Montreal audience that I know follows me, and I'm sure they'd like to know if there are Canadiens players being moved.
Well, there's interest in him. I could see him being moved. Like, there's definitely been trade discussion around him. It's hard to get a read on Montreal at the moment. I think so much of their focus has been on the pick. So I don't know. It's different. Some teams come here and they're not picking till 29th. Like Edmonton picks at the end of the first round. So I think they have more time to devote to what else they might do.
I think the Leafs at like 25.
25. Yeah. I mean, so hopefully they'll do something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Get my man Steve Dangle all stirred up.
Yeah, as if we need him to get stirred up even more than it's how easy it is to get this man stirred up. He's just out here chilling, just taking photos of us. Hi, Steve.
Hi. But yeah, so I think it's a different vibe in Montreal right now. Like I think the pick is more important, and then everything flows out of that. And so, Josh Anderson could be on the move. Jeff Petrie, I think they'd like to find a home for. They still got to clear out cap space, right? Like I know they've already made the Shea Weber deal, which eased some burdens, but with not knowing exactly what's going on with Carey Price, if he's going to be able to play or not, they need to clear some room out, and those are the two most likely guys to go.
Okay, you've pretty much cleared through the names I wanted in trading pile. So before we get to stick taps, are you ready to make a prediction about who will go first overall tonight in Montreal? Are you saying Shane Wright? Are you saying Juraj Slafkovsky? Are you saying Logan Cooley?
Oh, I'm going to go Shane Wright, and I'll show my work here. Honestly, so as of Thursday morning, a couple people I've talked to are saying it's Slafkovsky, but I feel like it's a decoy.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But it's really hard to know. Like, I certainly don't have anything firm on this. It's not like the Canadiens are telling me. There's a lot of buzz about it. Like, there's like the agents are talking about it. The other teams are talking about it. But I think ultimately Shane Wright is the pick. But when you're listening to this, you might be like, CJ, you're an idiot.
No, they'll put us both in, because I think Shane Wright is the pick, and I think it's for that exact reason you mentioned. I think Kent Hughes, rookie GM Kent Hughes, throwing this smoke screen on everybody, thinking he's going one way when he's actually going another way. Like, it's really interesting to see, again, from like a first-year GM doing this and causing so much intrigue. Like, when was the last time you paid attention to the NHL draft and there was this much intrigue in terms of who was going at the top? I guess the Nico Hischier year.
Yeah, or maybe Nathan McKinnon back in those days. But the difference there is that draft wasn't held in Denver, and like, or whatever. Like it's cool that we're in Montreal. Like, I just think there's going to be a vibe in the building. It's going to be actually really neat. And I'm the first to admit, I'm not a huge draft guy. Like, I love being here for draft week. The draft itself, like, if anyone's been there on the second day, it kind of drags. It's a bit of a slog.
We await with
Anyway.
Okay. It's scared. I was like, what's going on? Anyway, let's get to
my phone's blowing up.
It's just been blowing up this entire time.
What's happening?
No, I don't know. I hope. I mean, it would be something if you had to break a trade after we record this podcast.
Well, I broke that no one was on waivers today. That's the only exciting thing you got out of me.
As we were doing that, by the way, Insider J Money, big fan of yours, said, well, I got put on waivers. That's not true. You're not on waivers. Let's get to stick taps. Should I start or should you start?
I think I'll start.
Sure.
I mean, we didn't know how to handle this, but I think the best place to do it is stick taps, and it's to Brian Marchman's family, to the San Jose Sharks, to his son Mason, who plays in the NHL. Just awful news that he passed away here in Montreal as a scout for the Sharks. 53 years old, is way too young to go. As you know, I've been through it myself, losing a parent. I'm sympathetic to anyone who has to do that, and so it's hard to strike the right tone because we're here at the draft and there's so much excitement. But a lot of people on that draft floor tonight will be there with heavy hearts. Brian was someone played a long time in the league, was universally beloved, and I'm not just saying that because the man just died. And it's just awful news. So sort of sobering, I guess, about what's really important in life. So we didn't quite know how to address it, but I think the best thing to do is give our stick taps to everyone affected by that, and our best to his family. I mean, there's not much you can say at a time like that, but if there's one good thing, and I experienced it when my mom died a few years ago, is the hockey world is pretty tight too, and a lot of people will be putting their arms around them physically, but also sort of metaphorically, and trying to help their family through a tough time.
That's very well said. I will just quickly give my stick taps to a lot of women doing really well with regards to getting positions in the National Hockey League in the last few days. And not even just getting positions. I mean, we didn't even talk about Angela James being named to the Order of Canada at the end of last month. But Dr. Haley Wickenheiser being named AGM for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kate Madigan in New Jersey, she becomes the 5th female AGM elevated this year. Emily Engelnatsky becoming the first ever video coach with the Washington Capitals. And just as we were recording, Manon Rhéaume, the first female goalie to appear in an NHL game, named a hockey operations advisor for the Los Angeles Kings. That happened just as we were recording.
And don't even forget, Jessica Campbell was hired by 100%. Coachella Valley, the new AHL farm team for Seattle, as an assistant coach. She'll be the first woman behind the bench at that level of hockey. And we know it's not long before, whether it's her or someone behind her, Corey Chevry, a lot of other women who are making their way on the men's side of the game as coaches are on an NHL bench. And this is how it happens. Like Emily Engelnatsky was the video coach for the Hershey Bears in the AHL. The Washington Capitals, their parent team, need a video coach. They're making a change to that position. They elevate someone that's already in their organization. So it starts, we have to celebrate when it happens at the AHL level, when we're seeing people get opportunities they haven't had in the past, because that fuels it to the NHL. And I think more of this will be coming.
All right, Siege, you have to go do a radio hit right now with TSN. So you are literally hopping off the podcast right now. We literally are buzzer beating over here. So I'm just going to handle the outro here. Thanks so much for watching or listening to the Chris Johnston Show. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can tell this man is very busy. And we'll be back on Monday with a brand spanking new episode. We hope to see everybody on Friday at the SDPN Fan Appreciation Night. CJ, Great episode, buddy.
The Chris Johnston Show.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook.
Inside the game, twice a week. Follow Chris on Twitter at Reporter Chris. And follow Jillian McKenzie at JK McKenzie.
The Chris Johnston Show.